If we could rise for the flag.
Flag. Face. Read that. Colors.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry. Colors. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Go ahead and call the roll.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Here.
Mr. Green,
Here.
Mr. Richards,
Here.
Mr. Moses,
He's excused.
Mr. DeRue, Mr. Middlestat, Mrs. Knox here.
Thank you. Our student Congress member was unable to be here today for the update, so I will move on to an approval of tonight's agenda for the regular board meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
I'm gonna make Dennis work.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Just wanted to briefly touch on the next item. Board member recognition tonight was scheduled to be Mr. Middlestat's final board meeting, as he did not rerun for election. And we were to present him with a plaque for his service. Mr. Middlestat had been on the school board since 1986. Mr. Jankowski alerted me to an interesting fact today. Find that actually Anchor Bay School District has been in existence for 73 years and 5 months. And of that time, Mr. Middlestat has officially been on the school board for half of the time that the district has been incorporated, so 36 years and 11 months. So I just wanted to recognize his service to the school district. Next, we'll move to the superintendent's update.
I have group of our administrators, we're going to present the strategic plan. So while Tim is pulling that up, I'm going to go down to the lectern. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, we're going to present, this is the short form for those people who were at the strategic planning meetings. This is the much shorter version than the 183 slides that I shared at the culminating meeting there. Thank you. So we're just going to walk through and then just kind of give people kind of a history of how we got to this point. So we have the plan development. We had a series, there was 4 meetings last fall of last school year and then into the spring, where we looked at our mission statement, which our revised mission statement is empowering all students to succeed in an ever-changing world. We also revised our vision statement, whereas educational excellence together, and we focused on our 4 areas: to educate, motivate, collaborate, and cultivate our students. Our belief statements, we revised those as well, which I'm not going to read them all off here because we went through those in depth. But based off of these, we then looked at part of the process. I think you have to click back on the presentation. It's not letting me advance it. There we go. Was our portrait of graduate. We started looking at the process of, let's begin with the end in mind. Let's look at where do we want our students to end up? And so we had a group, there's about 56 people that were part of this process in the strategic planning. And we worked through basically what were those skills that we wanted and characteristics we wanted our students to have before they graduated. So that was kind of how we worked backwards. These were the 16 major ones that were identified, and that's how we developed the 4 areas. And then as part of that, we looked at possible ways of visually representing this, and we ended up with the last logo on the far right at the bottom, which you will now see on our main webpage. We also, as part of this, began the planning for the bond, which is a major part of our strategic plan. That's why we waited till now, because we wanted to have all of those things in place, because that was a major portion of our strategic plan is, do we have the resources and the support of the community? So part of that planning process, we asked the strategic planning members what were their wants and needs, and kind of ranked, ordered based on their votes. And we also asked what future programs. So all told, we kind of took all of this back, and this group and the administrators and teachers and so on, we worked through that in order to kind of develop the plan and put it in some process. So what we are going to go over is the academic and instructional half and the programmatic half, because we've spent a ton of time on the bond over the last few months, which is the facilities portion of that. And we welcome any questions as we go through. So this was, again, ultimately where we settled with the portrait of graduate. And then this whole discussion started coming around, okay, what we really want is competent citizens. So we were looking at taking the approach of a competency-based education. How do we know that students are going to be well-rounded? How are they going to be able to have all of those things? Because much of what was shared at strategic planning, and I know all of you were there, was not just can they read at the appropriate level, can they do math? It's can they be productive? Will they persevere? Will they be able to work with other people? Will they have that reliability and responsibility and all of those things? So these were the main tenets that we developed based off of that feedback. We wanted our students to be college and career ready. We wanted to increase college credit opportunities. We wanted to have career experiences beginning from kindergarten through 12th grade. We wanted to move towards industry recognized certifications for all students before they graduate, internships and apprenticeships, flexible pacing grade levels that were not just grouping students based off of that they were born within this 12-month period. So we're expecting them all to achieve at the same pace. Some students will be able to be accelerated, some need interventions. And basically project-based learning. It's not enough for them to have recall and to be able to fill in the bubble. They need to be able to take this information and apply it in some meaningful fashion in a novel situation. So what is competency-based education? A lot of the research comes from the Aurora Institute, and basically there's 7 principles of this. It's deep student agency. Students need to feel that they can choose the path that they're on, that they can kind of shape their education for what they see their future needs. That it should be relevant, actionable assessment, that it's not enough just to test kids in sitting, again, paper and pencil, because they're not going to do that later on in life. We need to have them do performance-based assessments where they can actually apply this. Differentiated supports, because we know students will learn at different paces. So what can we do to kind of support them? Progression upon demonstrated mastery. Just as much as we want to support those students who might be struggling, we want to move students ahead if they're ready for the challenge. We want every student to have productive challenge on a daily basis. And so part of that is the varied pacing and pathways, because they might want to follow a certain career path. And we want to be able to shape our programs in order to give them the best opportunity for that. Same thing with equity strategies. And we talked about this as part of the bond planning. We want to make sure that, especially between middle schools, that they're seeing the same programs, that they have the same opportunities regardless of where they're at. Same thing on the elementary and the high school level, and just that students were really kind of can fill those needs. And then rigorous common expectations for transferable knowledge, skills, and abilities and dispositions, so that what we're doing will transfer, whether it's college, whether it's career, or whether it's going into trade school or military or something like that. So now Melissa is going to walk you through kind of our thought process, and I'll.
Sure. Thank you, Phil. So again, looking at some of the information Phil provided, when we're looking at competency-based education, we know that that's our thought process moving forward. Why are we doing that? Because we want to make sure that our instruction is very intentional and that we're creating pathways for every learner in the classroom. Obviously, then aligning to the portrait of a graduate, making competent citizens from K all the way through 12. What are we going to use to do that? We're going to definitely be aligned with our content standards. So having our teachers very familiarized and versed in the standard continuum. So looking at the Michigan standards and making sure that we're progressing kids as kids are ready to progress. Utilizing our supporting standards to hit their weaknesses or their areas that need to be strengthened. So definitely using that continuum within our classrooms to continuously move our kids, not just hold them in one position. And that's regardless of what classroom you're in, what building you're in, using that to guide our instruction. And how do we plan to do this? Well, obviously utilizing a universal design for learning, or the UDL model. What the UDL model does is it removes all barriers from our classrooms, allows us to create classrooms that allow several pathways to be hit simultaneously. So creating an environment that's going to support every learner each day that they're in any classroom of the building. This may look like we may have problem-solving areas, cooperative learning groups, kind of an independent zone for learning, but making sure that we're hitting all pathways in every type of learner using that UDL model. How do we come to this conclusion? Well, obviously, when we think about things, all of our decisions is definitely research driven and research based. So we looked at what works and what do we know that works. We familiarized ourselves with John Hattie and his educational research. John Hattie has actually created an educational database that looks at all of the research and what influence impacts student outcomes. So we really kind of focused on that. What are the key characteristics that we have to hit, our teachers have to hit, to really move our students forward in an intentional method? And so by doing that, we know that feedback is going to be key to our students, having aligned targets with those standards, utilizing our continuums, and really making sure that we're continuously progressing our students, regardless of what grade they're in. If they're ready and they're hitting that mastery, continuously moving them back. And again, aligned with Hattie's research database, which there's a lot of great information provided in his work. When we think about it, we know that our teachers, we are alongside of them as we look at this as education as a whole, and our administrators, our teaching staff, and then our students. We know that we have the ability, we are efficient, effective, and we want to empower. We know that our students can do it and our teachers can do it, but we want to make sure that we're providing those resources so that those classrooms align with optimal learning. With that, we know that through practice and providing the resources for our teaching, the coaching for our teaching, and working alongside them, we know that we can do it well consistently. And what we'll find is it kind of self-empowers not only the educators, because we'll see those outcomes, but it also empowers our students, which is key in this slide, because ultimately that last piece, empowering others, it aligns to empowering our students, making our students kind of take some of that ownership for their learning, which then fosters into the portrait of a graduate, kind of going full circle. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McDonald to talk about curriculum and instruction.
Thanks, Melissa. So as we work through all the parts of the strategic plan and we started thinking about competency-based education and what it's going to mean for our staff and for our students, we worked through a group on how would we roll this out? So we developed a 5-year plan to kind of start with things that we're familiar with and build off of what we know and what we were doing that works. And then scaffold that just like we would do in a classroom for our teachers to make sure that we roll this out over a 5-year plan, because this is going to be a big shift in how we educate students. So we know it's going to take time. And when you have that plan, we also have to give the resources and support for our staff so that they feel ready and comfortable to do that. So again, as we talked about, really starting with the standards, making sure that everyone's aware. And when we mean everyone, we mean the students. We want to be transparent with them, with students, teachers, and parents, so that everyone kind of knows where they're at in the learning process. Another highlight is the path finder position, where we're kind of bringing back department leaders so that we have department coaching and support from our teachers to other teachers. So they kind of lead the way. They've been doing a lot of excellent work, coming in on Saturdays and learning about competency-based education. And so that is another highlight to that. And again, as we talked about, having the pathways and creating that relevance, so that goes right along with the motivation to learn. You know, why am I learning this? Because it's going to lead to something that I want to do in the future. And also making sure that we're able to, with all of our instructional practices, really be intentional with what we're doing and at what level for each student, so that it meets them where they're at. So, wrong slide. Just again, to kind of summarize the curriculum and instruction initiatives that we're going to focus on. Again, it's always to be standards driven, to be at the right rigor for each individual student. So it'll be a lot less whole group instruction and more after the new learning is inputted, to kind of our assessments will be aligned to the standards as well. So we'll know which students are getting it, which ones need a little bit more support, and be able to move in that direction, the direction that they need. So again, creating pathways and relevance, which will allow us to meet kids where they're at and give them that right amount of struggle throughout the day, throughout the year. So it's going to be a journey over the next 5 years. And then within that 5-year plan, we also have other elements that I'll turn over to Mr. LaPerriere. Thank you.
Good evening. The next 3 areas that we want to talk about is assessment, grading, and feedback. When we're talking about assessments, we want to make sure that our students are being assessed multiple different ways. It's not just one way of assessing to see if they know, if they understand it, and if they're able to do it. When it comes to the grading piece of it, we want to make sure that that grading actually represents what the kids know, not what they just did when it came to like homework and stuff like that. When it comes to feedback, we want to make sure that we're specifically and timely. We know that the brain operates that if you learn something and you learn it wrong and you don't correct it right away, which is the specific, the timely feedback, that brain will remember that as being correct. We have to make sure that we target it specifically and timely and get it to them in a manner that helps them understand that the wrong answer can be the right answer, or if the right answer is the right answer. Also, when it comes to that, the student self-monitoring, we also know that the brain works better when you monitor how you're doing. You're telling yourself where you're at. And that's where it goes back up to the grading part of it, where we have rubrics. Rubrics are there to help kids, show them the pathway of where we're going. The assessment grading feedback here. So we want to make sure that we align and create the common language. When we do that, we want to make sure that we're vertically aligned K-12. When we promote students and self-monitoring, eliminate the harmful grading practices, excuse me. We want to make sure that the grade actually does represent what the kid knows. It is important that the parents understand where they're at, and also where the kid understands where they're at and what they still need to learn. And then promoting the perseverance and the effort. that's that growth mindset. We want to make sure our kids understand it's okay to fail and okay to keep trying. But in the end, we want them to persevere and get that with that growth mindset. And then provide that structured feedback that helps the student improve. We always want to make sure that we're helping our kids improve. And we have to make sure that that feedback is timely and specific. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley.
Okay, so I want to talk about the mental health and advisory. And two programs that we launched at the beginning of this year are the Positivity Project and Link Crew. Positivity Project is K through 8, and the Link Crew is for the high school. And so that's something we're starting off for character education and to really help meet the social and emotional needs of our students. And that's something that will continue over the next 5 years. Other things that we'll work on, student mental health interventions. We want to kind of expand and offer more after school and summer programs. So things like life skills, Spanish, Dungeons and Dragons, gaming, things like that we'd like to offer. And then the kind of the end goal would be to have students kind of start leading conferences because the goal is to really empower our students, and that kind of supports the mission of the district to empower all students to succeed in an ever-changing world. So really supporting that. And just to kind of pull all that together, those are the things that we're going to be working on in that category. But, you know, some of the goals that we have, you know, we really want to increase school engagement overall and really build on that culture. And I think this piece really helps bring that together. We want to create positive paths for our students. We want them to come into school and feel welcome in a place that they want to learn. And really, the whole mission of competency-based education is to empower our students, give them skills that they can take beyond our school into their careers. And so I think that these skills really help support that, not only their social emotional skills, but their academic skills. And with that, I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Latona.
Okay, good evening. So I'll wrap things up with data and evaluation. So as we begin with data, the emphasis will be in NWA math and reading, and it's part of the medical model. And the objective is to identify the needs of students for both remediation and accelerated pace. We want to meet the needs of our students of where they are. So with the use of formative, summative, and NWEA data, the objective will be to differentiate instruction and assessments. So teachers will continue to be proactive, make sound instructional choices, and use resources strategically. So in the end, we'll be able to create pathways for our kids who have different learning styles based on data. Now, this is a journey over 5 years. So with evaluation, the instructional leaders will work alongside our teachers. The goal is to illuminate and clear the path. Success will be measured on how far we bring our students along. That success be measured in how far we bring those students along and meeting the students where they are and not just hitting the proficiency line. So at times, students can be proficient, but not show much growth. And now one thing I want to really focus on too is the national board certification, something for our teachers to reach towards. So as we look down the line, national board certification gives teachers the option to earn and be compensated for the highest certification a teacher can obtain. With the 5-year plan aligning with the 5 core components of the national board certification, our amazing teachers will be at a great vantage point if they wish to pursue this certification. So I'll close that and pass on Mr. Jankowski and the rest of the team for any questions.
And basically what you see with this plan is this was developed alongside what we did with the bond in order to not only create the plan on the academic side, on the career side, but also on the facilities in order to make that be able to happen. So at this point, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to entertain those.
I do have one question. I'm not sure who it's most appropriate for. It's actually not really a question, but just more an explanation I could use. With competency-based education, this is something I'm not totally familiar with, although Mr. Jankowski and all of you have, it's about letting kids that can continue to succeed go beyond that. How does that, I can see how it works in middle school and high school because they have separate classes and you have honors and things like that. How does that work in an elementary classroom? Like if you could give me an example of a child who is beyond their classmates.
Sure,
do that.
absolutely. And a lot of that is in practice currently as well. So we have programs that allow us to maybe walk to math or walk to read based on where that mastery or where they've hit that standard. So students who need to continue to grow, we're able to provide them with those kind of approaches. So maybe it's a walk to read time or a walk to math time, or we may have, we do some enrichment activities where high achieving math might be our future problem solving team that is then carrying on those math standards to the next level. So kind of embedding some programs and then also shifting scheduling a bit as we're kind of documenting their progress. Is that kind of answer for you?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
I have a question. During the presentation, it was mentioned instructional leaders and pathfinders. Can you just give us a little more information on who they are, how we picked them?
Yeah, so at each level and each building, there's pathfinders for all grade levels and all content areas. And they were chosen by building administration in consultation with those teachers that want to participate. And they are taking on learning competency-based education and some of these initiatives and that we're laying out in our 5-year plan ahead of some of the rest of the other staff. So just like anything else, they're putting in extra time on weekends and coming in and learning and going through workshops to be able to help blaze that trail and to lead that work. So every grade level and every content area has a pathfinder. 38 total. And I can tell you that when we do the Saturdays, they are all here and they're working. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was curious about the national certification. How is the teacher selected for that and what are kind of the core requisites for someone to be eligible for that program?
You want to talk about it? There you go.
Well, Mr. Jankowski, I'm sure can jump in as well with this, but that's for any teacher that would want to go for that certification. And I think what's nice about this, if you look at the 5 components of the National Board certification, it aligns with a 5-year plan. So they're already on track if they wanted to do that. So this is a journey, and I think that certification it's a lofty goal and it's a great goal to have. All our teachers will be in line if they wanted to take that next step.
Do you have any idea how many teachers have that certification? I know that's a crazy thing to ask at this point, but whether it's across the country, across the state, how many people actually go after this certification?
It's very limited in Michigan. I can tell you that nationwide, it's probably under 50,000 teachers total. And there's about 3 million teachers, I believe, nationwide. And in Michigan, especially recently, I think the last time that they had, it was like 12 teachers got it statewide, but part of that was because of the pandemic. Even before that, if you had 30, 35 teachers get it in a year, that would be something. And it's really, it's a component process. So there's an assessment that goes with it. There's also, they have to do a video reflection. So they have to actually look at their teaching and critique it and say, this is what I thought worked. This is, and so that they're kind of bringing that research base behind and talking about how effective it is. On top of that, it's probably the best professional development I've ever seen, because the teacher has to want to go through this process. Think of like, I can tell you one teacher I know said this is kind of like Navy SEAL training for teachers, because it's very rigorous. You have to go through it, and typically about a third of the teachers will get it on their first chance, and 2/3 they have to either retake a component or something in order to do that. Ultimately, it's challenging. We put it in the teacher contract as a stipend, but then our goal is as we kind of layer this in, we'll have, as teachers are kind of doing those components on kind of like the light version, then that might inspire them to kind of move up and take on the full certification.
Is there a cost for those teachers to do the certification on their own? Like,
Yes, yeah, and so, and there's grants that are available that we
Okay.
can take that on, and we can also use Title II funds and so on. It was. I considered possibly trying to get a cohort this year, but it was just. I thought just kind of getting back out of everything, but we'll look at possibly adding that in the future. Because one thing I found just, they need a coach to kind of help them kind of walk through that, especially your first cohort that goes through that. Any other questions?
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the, actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Jankowski, did you have any additional for your update?
No. that
Okay.
was all.
Just wanted to make sure. We have the hearing of the public. Again, as far as I know, I do not have any submissions for tonight. We'll move on to communications. Do we have any communications to enter?
No communications.
Okay, so the consent agenda is next. Tonight's consent agenda consists of the approval of the minutes for November 16th regular meeting, November 9th special meeting, the personnel report, the financial report, and the bills payable for November of 22. So the recommendation is to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? Go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox, yes, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving into new business, we have a second reading of our policy. So this was the policies regarding school community relations in regards to volunteers, as well as meal charge administrative regulation updates. So the recommendation was to approve the new policy 7009, volunteers and administrative regulations update, 5008, AR meal charges. Is there a motion to adopt these policies as recommended?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Discussion? Go ahead.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Knox, yes, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is the strategic plan approval. So the strategic plan was attached for the board members in their packet. We obviously just had a presentation regarding that. So the recommendation is that the board approve the strategic plan for 2022 to 27 as attached and presented this evening.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Any discussion further?
I want to thank Mr. Jankowski for his leadership on this. This is a huge, huge project that consumed significant amounts of hours and involved over 1,000 people. So I think that's notable and commendable. And I think it's great that we have some new, I don't want to say guidelines, but that's kind of what they are. We have some goals, we have some targets as your team discussed tonight. So I appreciate your leadership on all of that.
and it's wonderful that it went hand in hand with the bonds. So we have the educational component and the facilities component simultaneously, which is an even bigger undertaking. Good.
Go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox, yes, Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item are field trips. So the JROTC will be participating in a curriculum in action trip to Melbourne, Florida, February 24th to 28th. coming in 2023. There will be 33 cadets, 8 chaperones, and Sergeant Quintana attending this trip. Cadets will be traveling via school bus to Metro Airport and staying at the Melbourne Holiday Inn Express. The cadets will be participating in all-day drill meets at Melbourne High School and also be during the Kennedy Space Center, which integrates the JROTC curriculum. And then cadets will be finishing their trip with a day visit to Universal Studios. And additionally, DECA, our student, Mr. Ishan Jain, to attend the Michigan DECA District Conferences on the following dates. For each of these dates, Ishan will be leaving the day prior to the conference, driving to Eastern Michigan University, where the Michigan DECA office is located. And then from Eastern, Ishan and his fellow state officers will be transported in a shuttle owned by Michigan DECA to each of the conference locations listed below under the supervision of Dave Waite. The team will stay at hotels located near the conference venues. December 16th at Lawrence Tech, January 7th at Lake Orion, January 12th and 13th at Eastern Michigan, January 20th at Western Michigan, and all these expenses are covered by the Michigan DECA chapter. So the recommendation is that the board approve both the JROTC travel to Florida and Ishan Jain's attendance at the Michigan DECA district conferences as presented. Is there a motion to accept this recommendation?
So moved.
Is there support?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
So the only reason I'm hesitant and am not going to vote no is because we don't have the rest of our board members here. And if I vote no, the motion doesn't pass, but I hate when we go out of state. I hate when we send our dollars out of state. So I voted no on these in the past, but I certainly won't penalize the ROTC kids because I have a passion for keeping my money in Michigan.
Go ahead and call the roll.
Ms. Knox, yes. Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have the bond authorizing resolution. So it is recommended that the board approve the official resolution following the election, authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of bonds and other matters related, provided in your board packet. Is there a motion to approve the bond authorizing resolution?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion?
Finance did meet with our bond folks, got some recommendations on how we move forward and how we essentially take the bond to market, if you will. So it was very educational for me because I'd never been part of that process. So I appreciate Mr. Jankowski and Mr. Retham bringing someone in to kind of help us understand a little bit better how the bond moves forward.
Okay. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Ms. Knox, yes.
Motion passes. And last item of new business is the stormwater management resolution. Whereas the Anchor Bay School District owns and operates facilities within the boundaries of the Detroit urbanized area, which discharges stormwater through a municipal separate storm sewer system to surface waters of the state of Michigan. Essentially, the district has applied for and received permit coverage to discharge stormwater from Anchor Bay facilities to the separate storm sewer system. So this is a resolution in support of the stormwater management. Excuse me, is there a recommendation or a motion to approve the stormwater management resolution?
Support. I'll make the motion. Sorry, I'm not supporting it.
Support.
There we go.
Mr. Jankowski, just for the audience, are you able to kind of give a little bit better background on, where
Yeah,
this
so
comes from?
Essentially, this is kind of a prelude as well to our bond work. When now you have to make sure that you're adhering to all the guidelines for storm water discharge. And basically, we're committing ourselves that we're going to follow those guidelines in order to have the permit so that we can maintain our facilities and our future additions and changes.
I think Corey Wiley happened to be at a finance
Yeah.
meeting and we did discuss it, and it's got to do with even our bus wash and
Yep.
all those things, anything that we dump into the
Mhm.
sewage system, we have to make sure that we're handling correctly according to the standards the
Mhm.
state sets. This is just agreeing to do that.
Yeah, and we had our legal counsel review it and they find it acceptable.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
I will make that motion as well. Didn't I already make the motion? once?
Yeah.
Was that
Nope,
a
just kidding.
neutral
I
on what-
Yes,
supported it.
and Jill supported it. Yep.
Supporting.
Okay, go ahead and
With the roll.
call the
Okay.
roll. Yeah.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Knox, yes, Ms. Bergmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, we're gonna move into board comments or points of pride. Mr. Richards. Go for it.
I'd like to recognize all the students that participated in the Winter Concert Cadet Band, Symphonic Band, and Jazz Ensemble. They did an incredible job, great performances. Congratulations to the musicians who represented Anchor Bay High School at the MSP OA District 16 Honors Band performances. Congratulations to the Anchor Bay HOSA Club for achieving first place and registering the most donors and activity points for Gift of Life competition. I'd like to thank everyone that organized the first ever movie night at Middle School North. Students came to watch the Santa Claus. The event was staffed by parents and teachers. Middle School South is looking for a wrestling coach. The Nautical Shop has extended their hours. On Friday, the 16th, they're open from 5 to 8 p.m. The Key Club members from Anchor Bay High School joined the youth group at St. Peter's in Mount Clemens on Saturday, December 3rd to participate in a blanket making frenzy. The blankets will go to Big Family of Michigan, which is a nonprofit organization to make life better for children waiting to be adopted. Congratulations to Middle School North Captain of the Month, Maddie Delange. Thank you for everything that you do. Middle School South is looking for full-time custodians. Shift hours are 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. If interested, please reach out to HR. Congratulations to Lighthouse student writers that were recognized for outstanding writing piece as their in their Kaleidoscope 2023 winner. Nice job. Congratulations to Middle School North Students of the Month, 6th grade, Rehan Salik. 7th grade, Emily Moses, I believe it's Mike Moses' daughter. And 8th grade, Mark Gianotta. I'd like to thank the lacrosse team who has continued to carry out their annual holiday tradition by packing and sending care packages to members of the United States Armed Forces in Japan, Korea, and Middle East and in California. Congratulations to Coach Celesti on his first win last week as head coach of the varsity basketball team. Congratulations to the Anchor Bay dance team. They took first place of grand champions, first place in jazz, first place duet Lady Bliss and Reese Jenks. Second place solo Katana Jakubi. Third place prom, third place soloist Alexandria Ruth. Awesome job. I'd like to thank Mr. LaPierre for taking time last week to show me around the high school. It's great to see how proud he is of the high school, the students and the staff. My points of pride this month, I'd like to thank all the volunteers that helped this past Saturday at the Christmas for Anchor Bay event. Thank you for making this event successful. Thank you.
I have one that Mr. Richards does not have. Congratulations to an Anchor Bay alum, Tyler Smelticott. Tyler graduated in 2020, where he played football all 4 years rather well from what I recall. And he served as the coaching assistant for our high school varsity team. Well, he just concluded his first season serving as special teams student assistant for Michigan State University football. So he continues to grow in his path from Anchor Bay as a player and student to a coaching assistant and now on to the university level. So congratulations, Tyler.
Couple things I have. First, I want to thank the ROTC. I have the privilege of being a member of the Goodfellows here in New Baltimore and standing out in traffic and trying to sell you all newspapers and collect money. Last Saturday, this is the first Saturday in December, lose track. The ROTC cadets were out in full force. I think there's about 30 of them that were selling papers around town and taking on some of the most interesting intersections that we have, like 23 in Gratiot, the 23 Mile Road exit ramps, working all the dangerous spots because us older folk don't want to stand out there anymore, quite frankly. So I appreciate them. And I also, it's amazing how many people you see and how much business you can transact when you're standing in the middle of the road. So I'll thank our teachers, our principals, and our bus drivers for stopping and talking to me while I was standing in the middle of the road. I had some really great, about 45-second conversations with probably 30 different people. So that was exciting. Congratulations, Phil, on your evaluation. We appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
And then I forgot to write down his name, but we've hired a new swim coach that is circling back, kind of a boomerang that came back to us. He was a student and a swimmer at Anchor Bay and is now taking over the swim team. So I, for whatever reason, wrote down swim coach, but didn't write down the young man's name. So I apologize for being ill prepared, but welcome home. Glad to have you back.
Okay. And just to add to them, I think my point of pride this month would be our Pathfinders group and strategic plan groups. I know that they've been attending the Saturday sessions. I think that's a difficult thing to give up for staff members, and they're doing so graciously, and as well as attending conferences and things and meetings for the strategic planning. It's really great to kind of see everything. Mr. Jankowski's been with us, as we know, with our evaluation for a couple of years now, and kind of just seeing all these pieces with the bond and the strategic plan and the portrait of the graduate kind of all finally coming together and making some headway. So it's an exciting time. And I appreciate those staff members that are putting themselves out there to kind of be the guinea pigs and move forward with us and help bring everybody else along. Okay. Legislative updates.
And
We're not in
for-
session.
Yeah, yep. I think they had 2 days of session and it was just mostly goodbye speeches. So yeah, nothing. January, there will definitely be probably some updates. Yes.
Okay. And board committee updates. I believe you already touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I think I covered the two main topics we had most recently in finance were the wastewater, oddly, was a quick discussion, as well as the bond. I think those are the two most important things that we covered.
Mhm. And that is it for our agenda. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 7:50. Have a good night and happy holidays.